Oh, good Lord. Are you okay, Joe?
Oh, it's not COVID, honest. I just tried to read Deathmate again.
He's gotta puke! He's gotta puke!
Hello and welcome once again to Crazy Comics and Stories. It's me, your charming and delightful old Uncle Rat Bastard. And at the other end of the series of tubes and wires that we call the internets is Joe, Crazy Writer. How you doing today, Joe?
Cory, give me a beat. Give me a beat. Come on. Beat. Give me a beat. Dun, 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 dun. Ow! Living home with the COVID. Ow! Stuck at home. Nowhere to go. Living home with the COVID. Can't go to work. They just say no. Ow! Living here with the COVID. I quarantine. It's ruination. Living here with the COVID. Got to get a vaccination. Wait a minute. Living with the COVID.
So you got the Rona?
No, the Rona. Actually, my wife got it with symptoms, unfortunately. So she's been feeling like shit the last couple weeks. I, being exposed to it, and how I didn't get it is, well, let's put it this way. I have no idea if I got it or not, being that I was literally feet from her as we were, sleeping together at night. I know, that sounds sexier than it is. But I called work and I'm like, hey, my wife's got it. She basically, she thinks she knows where she got it from. Again, some motherfucker not wearing a mask, but I don't want to get too political.
Which is sad.
She
that it's
got
political.
Yeah. You'd think it would make sense, but we don't want to go down that road because we want to stay happy. But it was like she got the symptoms on Friday, could not get tested till Tuesday. Now, of course, they're like, oh, it'll take, could be up to 4 weeks. They called her back the next day. Actually, emailed her. And then I called work and I said, well, here's the deal. Actually, I said that wrong. She got in Monday, was told Tuesday. Tuesday, I called work and so they have to take information, see who I was with. I wear a mask when I was at work. So ideally, if I am, asymptomatic, I am not spreading it. I don't have symptoms. I don't know if I have it because when I got in to get a test, and here, this is going to be, let's see, is this on my freaking list? No, it isn't. But this is a minor freaking. What really sucks about the testing, and we've seen this before. Sports teams, we test these guys every other day, or every hour, or every 5 minutes. It depends on how many times you want to stick a nasal swab up their nose. I had to wait. I couldn't get in initially. I called my doctor and I said, listen, I work in public. I need to know if I have it. And they go, well, unfortunately, they're only, because they're so short supply, because apparently if you're not rich enough to get it, you can't do it. I had to literally lie to, yes, I am symptomatic. And it wasn't really a lie because, I got rheumatoid. I'm achy. I wake up in the morning. I got phlegm. I got a dry cough. I can fake a dry cough. I get headachy. This is just being with rheumatoid arthritis. This has nothing to do with COVID. So, I'm aware of how I feel. But then it's like every time, tighten the chest. No, I'm okay. I'm just kind of, no, I guess that's okay. Little achy. Well, no, that's because you shouldn't, even with a new hip, I shouldn't bend that way. So finally I just lied. Didn't get it through my health agency. I went in through CVS and, they were it was quick, The nice thing is they're doing it through the drive-through and the lady, how would you say? times you as you stick that thing up your nose, and you're like, oh, keep it moving, run it. Oh, God, was that a feeling? And,
I think I'm touching my brain.
and she's like, well, it didn't go. They don't go all the way to the back of the throat because they found out that it will Okay, everybody, here's your test for corona. Put your finger in your nose and touch the top. Go in about an inch. That's all the farther you need to go. But it's still kind of a weird area because there's a lot of nerve endings there. That's your sense of smell zone. So I swabbed it. I stuck it in the thing. I wiped everything down, drove away. It took longer to wait in line because I got in a van. I got behind a van that apparently had 20 people in it or something. I don't know. But now I wait. So who knows? Next week it might be, hey, I've got the COVID. Gonna make a list. Kiss my enemies. But now the other thing I did too. Once I found out I was
as you drive by.
Oh, no. But I did call you. I did notify you and Butch.
Yes.
I know you work with people who are more vulnerable, and I thought this is too important to wait until, I have it, and blah, blah, blah. Fortunately, our Geek Day was well over 14 weeks ago. So even if I had it then, which I have no idea if I did or not, if you'd had no symptoms within that time period, you're probably fine. Might be worth getting a test anyways, but
I did.
Yeah, and I did get a hold of Butch, and he said thanks. And I said, yeah, if you don't have symptoms, you probably don't have it, but because you've been exposed second, third, fourth hand, however the hell you want to call it. So, yeah, this is serious. What is kind of a bummer is that although I did go to Captain Jack's thing last week, there were 2 more events this weekend. David Wheeler posted, apparently over by the Source, there is a Cub Foods Pavilion, which just from the pictures looks really cool. Big open air place, covered. And they were just doing kind of an artist get together, and they had there were artists, there were comic artists, people setting out their wares. I found out about it like an hour before it was going to end. Otherwise I might have gone. Today was another outdoors toy swap. Again, if you go to Minnesota Toy Swap and you're part of their group. And I went to the last one, and basically, no masks. You got to wear masks if you go in. Otherwise they won't let you in. A lot of open tables. A little nicer today for the guys that don't have a tent. Because if you didn't have a tent on that last one, it was 90 degrees and sweaty. Could you imagine being out in the sun and nothing to protect you with? So I think this time maybe a lot of. Anyways, I didn't go. I could have gone. I should have gone. Because now I'm like, maybe I should have gone. But I also know that I had this here podcast to take care of, which, as you know, Cory and I are miles from each other. So we are the original socially distanced podcast, as well as the national treasure.
And I socially distance all the time.
That's true. Heck, the last time Cory and I went to go see WrestleMania, he went all the way to Stillwater to get away from us. Good night, everybody. These are the jokes, people. So
I've been working from home, and when I go to the gym, there's nobody there. So let's see. I worked at the group. I did not work at the group home this weekend. I did get the test when you called. They said that I'm fine, but I still social distance because I just don't like people.
You need to know if you had it. I mean, fine. Hair is fine. Ugh.
George Carlin's ghost is very mad at you right now.
He should be. You know what I did do while I was...
Since you've been stuck home,
yeah,
not alone, what have you been doing to keep yourself busy?
Well, some of it I'll talk about in geeking. I did, you know how we used to do that Kevin Bacon game with comic characters?
Yes.
Okay, Cory, here's one. Spider-Man to the Barbie Twins.
Oh, I know the Barbie Twins had a comic, but I don't remember anything about it.
Well, it's funny.
I don't remember them anymore.
Yeah, you could go Google them if you want. I mean, the Barbie Twins, in case you guys have no idea who they were, once upon a time, 2 matching blondes made a minor splash posing for Playboy. The twins were custom made to star in beer commercials, but instead someone decided to do a comic book on them, and that would be Topps, among other people. There was only one issue. It was a flip book. One side had a really cool cover. I believe it was, I put my copy away somewhere. Joe Chusco did it. The twins, I believe their name was Sia and Shane. One story was cast as secret agents who seemed to be continually too busy to put their makeup on to actually go to stop the bad guys. When they do battle, it's with cutesy compacts that turn into guns, blah, blah, blah. And then on the other side, apparently there was I guess the heroine Razor was there. So you could use her because she teamed up with all sorts of people. The other comic that they had was one from, and excuse me while I fire up the Kraytron 3000, was Barbie Twins and Zen the Galactic Ninja, which was out in 1998. And I couldn't really tell you much about that. The reason I mention it is because I actually have all their stuff, including a bonus thing on my eBays as I was digging through my collection. I have a ash can for this Barbie Twins Adventures that were triple signed by the creators of that comic. Stephen Stern, Robert V. Conte, and Conte, in case you mispronunciate my pronunciation and enunciation for proliferation. Artist Bill Mouse. So you could use Zen the Galactic Ninja, which would be a lot easier because we know Zen teamed up with the Turtles, Turtles teamed up with Batman, Batman teamed up with Spider-Man. There, I did it for you. And I did it in 3. Impressive, huh?
Yeah.
So,
and didn't he also, I know that Zen the Intergalactic Ninja had 3 issues from Archie.
Yes.
Zen was one of those characters that they tried really, really hard to license.
Yeah.
And they did everything that came out just seemed like it was trying to be a toy line or a cartoon.
And
none of the stories really worked.
I believe he was a toy in the Turtle line. So it's something you could look up. Yeah, I'm just looking on, I use Atomic Avenue when I try to figure out what's what. And I see Zen Volume 1. Let me type in Zen again. Zen the Bounty Hunter. Zen Home, Zen Intergalactic Ninja, 7 different series. So there's a lot of Zen, only 2 Barbie twin comics. So, and again, it's a comic series I don't think we'd ever talk about, but I have, Cory, what would you say is our mission statement for this here podcast? Not to cause another incident.
I think years ago I said that it was to try to give people the feeling of what it's like to be hanging out at the comic shop when you and I were there on a Tuesday, just hanging out and talking geeky stuff. And it has since kind of become sort of, trying to think of the best way to put this. Kind of an educational podcast. Yeah. With a lot of friendship involved, because we do try to talk about, what has gone on in the industry, the history of the industry, what's going on now, but it's not all right. Today's lecture will be on the Jewish roots of comic book publishing. I will fit that in.
Oh, sure.
But I'm not going to, make it very dry and lecture-like where you have to do a lot of research. I'll throw it in like fun stuff, like things like that. I think a few weeks ago I let you know that I had found out from Stan Lee, an interview with Stan Lee and Harvey Kurtzman themselves, that before Roy Thomas was offered editor-in-chief of Marvel, it was offered to Harvey Kurtzman. Which then, since I found that out, I have dug back, and Harvey and Stan Lee were friends all the way back into the 40s when Stan basically said, look, I can't find any work for you, but if you do these one-page gag strips, I will fit them in whenever we come in a page short. And that's how he was able to keep Harvey Kurtzman paid until he was hired by William Gaines to do EC Comics. But that's where all those Hey Look strips came from. Stan basically said to Harvey Kurtzman, anytime you do one, bring it in, I'll print it, even if I don't understand it.
Well, I figure we got a secondary mission to mention every comic book ever published.
Well, that could be yours.
Well, we kind of do it because we like like Barbie Twins. There are only two. When are we ever going to talk about them again? Unless they happen to come on the show and give us sweetest massages with cheesecake.
I think they're pretty much retired at this point.
If you're out there, gals, we would love to have you. We could also talk about. Have you ever heard, Cory, of Supersnipe Comics?
Yes.
Oh, you have?
Supersnipe was way back in the 40s.
Oh, yeah. It was originally Army and Navy Comics, published by Street and Smith, 1941, 1942. With issue 5, they switched over to Supersnipe. And I'm just looking to see. It looks like they went all the way to issue 58. Published through 1949. The reason it came to my attention is somebody was publishing on the Facebooks on one of the better posts. The Supersnipe Comics Volume 1, Number 9, which had a picture of a kid clutching his comic books as he slept, and it says, "He reads them, he breathes them, he sleeps them. The boy with the most comic books in America." And I just thought. That was so cool. And that apparently.
Are you ready for this? That origin was actually stolen from. Not that the creator of Supersnipe stole it, but somebody stole that origin for a character that came about in the 80s. Does Joe know what character that is?
I do not.
Flaming Carrot got his powers by reading too many comic books.
Well, fortunately, this kid, his name was Copy McFad, back in the Supersnipes. And apparently he was in the former Army and Navy Comics and became so popular that they changed it to make the series mostly about him. Basically, he would... he pictures himself as the masked avenger, Supersnipe, solver of crimes, doer of great deeds, allowed to stay up late and have as much ice cream as he wants, which is probably what a 10-year-old would want to do during World War II. Let's see, the adventures ran from epic length, 32 pages of a 48-page comic with other humorous backups. And they are quite pricey and very rare. So if you have, all the ones on eBay's were over $200 range, and if any survived World War II, and the paper drives and the consequent mom throwing them out, well, good luck with that. So there, you've got 3 comics. Supersnipe, Army and Navy.
All these comics that have been reprinted over the years.
Yeah.
There are certain publishers like Street and Smith who are still kind of around. They just don't publish comics anymore. Haven't licensed somebody to put out books of them.
Yeah. Not necessarily the $50 ones we always deride that we find for $10 later at half price books, but a nice format. After reading this about Supersnipe Comics, I would buy a reprint of that just because it sounds amazing. It sounds like me when I was 10. So there, we've got, what do I got? We talked Flaming Carrot, Supersnipe, Army and Navy Comics, Barbie Twins. Was there anything else I missed we talked about?
No, not really.
Oh, I know. Let's get controversial. Captain Confederacy. Oh,
I actually really enjoyed that book. But my problem was Will Shetterly never had an end for it.
No.
The sales weren't good enough that Marvel picked it up for the Epic line. And then they did 4 issues, but then nothing came of that. Nope. He didn't go back to self-publishing or any of that. So why don't you talk about it, and I can talk about the Minneapolis connection for that book.
And the reason this suddenly came up is, of course, with everybody going bug hate over the Confederacy battle flag. It's not the national flag of the Confederacy. and for right reason. Again, political shit. We're not going to deal with it. But somebody posted a Captain Confederacy comic, and oh my God, you thought the world caved in. Because they thought, oh, that's hateful, that's this, that's that. No, actually not. Back in the heady days in 1985, as Cory mentioned, 12 issues came out from Steel Dragon. And Will Shetterly was trying to set up a carefully crafted alternate universe in which the Confederacy succeeded and was able to break away from the USA. One of the changes he envisions is that the South would have more readily renounced slavery of their own choice around 1930, which is what a lot of historians think that history would have just made slavery untenable, especially since around that time getting slaves was becoming less and less common. Even to the fact where one of the big users of South cotton, Britain, the UK still, and believe me, UK was at the time not really necessarily a fan of the United States, still smarting from breaking away. But even they were beginning to realize, hey, this stuff is morally repugnant, how we're getting it. And for context, William, no, I said it right. Churchill wrote a really interesting alternative history about this. And that's really what this comic is. It's not controversial. It's just alternate history. Anyways, Captain Confederacy himself is a super serum enhanced wasp actor of little talent and intellect to match. And he is Captain Confederacy, the star of propaganda films presented to the public as reality, in which he fights Black Snake, a black villain. According to his superiors, this sets a good example as the captain is a role model for whites, who teaches black kids that crime doesn't pay. When the black actors question their roles, the authorities kill them. And the remainder of the series presents, and I'll say allegedly because I have to toss it to Cory, a complex, engaging political plot as Gray becomes a valuable pawn to all parties, has to make his own decisions as whether to keep quiet, go public, or fight the system. And then his wife takes over. When you get to the epic 4-part, apparently his wife Kane is pregnant through the whole thing. And apparently the reviewer on Atomic Avenue isn't much impressed with it because he says it becomes a series of less intelligent international superhero conference with the world's powers plotting how best to manipulate the North American nation. Now, I did read this because I'm kind of a history guy. I love history. I'm an amateur historian. I got to say, by about issue 4 of this, it was leaving me cold. I don't recall if I went all 12 issues. It just didn't fly with me. There wasn't enough. I have read that the letter pages are much like Cerebus, are much better in terms of people intelligently talking about alternative histories. However, trying to find a set of these, you can find the epic ones. These are not common issues to find anywhere. The epic line isn't expensive. Some of the Captain Confederacies are pretty expensive because, again, this came out in the 80s. This was the black and white 85. Would that be after the black and white boom or during?
During.
So, again, a lot of stuff out there. I picked it up because of what Cory's talk about. It had a local connection.
Will Shetterly is a local writer, and Steel Dragon Press was a local publisher here in the Twin Cities. And Shetterly was friends with Emma Bull and Stephen Brust, who also have written. They haven't written comics. They write a lot of novels. Will Shetterly is part of that group. Emma Bull, if you're looking for a great urban fantasy novel set in Minneapolis, I think it's War of the Oaks, which I read before I moved here and absolutely adored it. It's such a great book. And Stephen Brust has written a number of vampire books that sell pretty well. They were all part of the group. It also included Reed, Waller, Kate Worley. They were kind of the indie underground darlings of Minneapolis during the 80s.
Well, and don't forget the comic they published. Omaha the Cat Dancer.
That's right.
Yeah. And you know who else was part of that clique? Matt Friesel. Mr. Cynical Man himself.
Yes.
He did a 2-issue series, Ant Boy, which I believe we talked about a long time ago because I actually had a couple copies of it. And of course, his stuff originally appeared as Ant Boy originally appeared in Captain Confederacy #1. So near as I can tell, Steel Dragon, let's see, Ant Boy, Captain Confederacy, Captain Phil, which that would have been the Intergalactic Space Pal, which was more of a 1-issue lighthearted science fiction parody from Greg Guler and Bill Fugate. And
Greg
the other,
Guler, who went on to work at DC for the comic Hawk and Dove.
Yeah, and I don't know, did we? I don't know. I got a sketch from him. So
yeah,
he was
at the con for a while. I don't know what happened to him.
He went west, I believe. He's one of the guys who went out to Hollywood to strike it rich in animation, I believe.
Probably did.
And again, I don't know if the sketch is something that was in the episode we aired or one coming to air, but that's okay. That's half the fun of going back and listening to old episodes. The last series they did was Steel Dragon Stories, and let's see, Reed Waller, Matt Friesel. Again, on one series. So not a lot of stuff out of them. Near as I can tell by, by 87, it was over. Some of their stuff went on to other things. Omaha the Cat Dancer went to Kitchen Sink. And was it finished up by Fangraphics?
No, it was.
Or reprinted?
Reprinted.
Because they finished it off on their own via graphic novel. Once Kate Worley passed away, Reed and her husband got together and finished the series because it was kind of left in limbo. Captain Confederacy we talked about. Matt went on. I don't know. He's so cynical. I have no idea what he did. So.
Matt Friesel also, there was this movement which even ties into Crazy Comics and Stories.
Uh-oh.
He was kind of the godfather of mini comics, which in the 80s became this kind of almost took the place of underground comics, where people would draw a comic and they would just take it to like the local printing shop and have it printed out, cut the pages together, and staple it into a comic. Scott McCloud was so in love with this idea that he actually did an issue of Zot about it. He worked with Eclipse Comics to get them to print giant-size mini-comics. And I remember until about the Image Revolution, mini comics were passed around, sold for $0.25 or 50 cents. It was kind of like web comics before the internet existed, where people would just do silly stuff, doing their own comic books. And there was even a time when they were printing them in big books. I've got a couple of those where Matt Friesel had Cynical Man published in a big book. And it was almost like this is going to be the coming revolution, but then Image came and just wiped out all of that stuff until the internet came and people started doing the same sort of thing with web strips. And it's funny how Scott McCloud went from mini comics are the future to web comics are the future. And if you read his 3 books, Understanding Comics, Reinventing Comics, those books, you can see his thought evolution as it goes through as well. And it's just odd to me how the whole mini comics thing just vanished almost overnight.
Well, sort of. I mean, they're still around, but I think it's cheaper now some people, if you're a self-publisher, it's cheaper to have someone professionally make you a comic than it is to do a mini comic. Because generally a mini comic is you make a lot of copies, you cut and paste, you put them together, and I've got 3 of them sitting here in front of me. Let's see, what is that? 5 by whatever, 4 inches. It's probably cheaper to just go find someone to print you a black and white comic, especially with some of the smaller press places that are around. I mean, even at the cons, I have a bunch somewhere in my vast accumulation of crap of people who say, yeah, we'll do print runs as low as 500 or whatever. I've got 3 here that I picked up. I don't, and let's see, this one's A Parent's Guide to Clown Safety by Julie Sidor. Here is Poe Takes a Trip from Velvet Rasputin. And then here's The Myth Hunters, A World of Rando Tale, written and drawn by Mark Eric Elton. They're still about, but I think for the price of doing a mini comic, you could do an ash can, which is slightly bigger and a little bit more professional.
And you can also just slap it up on the internet as a web strip.
Oh yeah, and with social media, you're basically, even without conventions, you're kind of keep your eyes open. I mean, I just, like at the top of the show, I talked about 2 places you could go. Maybe not the toy swap, but like the artist thing. Just get involved with a group, have things ready to rock and roll. I think it's kind of exciting with social media. I often wonder if social media was a little more active, I might have kept Crazy Comics going, because I could have advertised, hey, we got to run in this, I'm doing this. The great what ifs.
Speaking of what ifs, because we were talking about Captain Confederacy, have you read any good alternative history comics or series?
I'd have to dig them up.
Because there's a couple book series that I've read that I really like.
I'd have to dig them up. I remember I picked up one, What If Hitler Won the War? And it was a bunch of short stories. Some were good, some were whatever. What comes to mind once is there was a Star Trek episode novel, and maybe you can think of it because I'm having trouble finding it. It was based on the 3 main guys in the original Star Trek. Captain Kirk had one, Spock had one, and McCoy had one. And the McCoy one was, if you remember in the episode City on the Edge of Forever, Spock had his tricorder running. He cursed himself because as living history was going by,
he was like, I should have been recording this.
And then he was still recording even after McCoy changed history. So when they got to where they were, they were able, once Spock was able to power up what he could, I need some platinum, about a pound of it. He was able to figure out Edith Keeler must die. Well, what McCoy did, and this is an elder McCoy that we saw in Next Generation, he gets special compensation to go to a very heavily guarded, ultra top secret planet where the Federation stores anything that has to do with anything about time travel. And when he gets in there, if I recall right, he talks, there was a big blue box and there was an old-fashioned stylish car with, and, just talking about different time things that we would recognize as geeks. But he was allowed to go access Spock's tricorder, which had been commandeered, I imagine, by, what would they call those guys in Deep Space Nine?
Section 31.
No, it wasn't 31. It was a time, almost, I want to call it Time Variance Authority, but that was...
That's
Marvel. But yeah, they was the group that they show up in the Deep Space Nine episode where they accidentally went back in time to the original Trouble with Trouble episode. Yeah. So that society basically took it, and he was able to access the tricorder because he was having problems. He remembers living that old time period, and he was having trouble figuring out what was what. So he sat down. The story takes place as he reviews that history. And it's the entire history where Edith Keeler delays United States entry in the war. The United States, Hitler develops the bomb. It's just a fascinating book. I do remember, the Nazis weren't able to conquer all of North America, the East Coast, but they were trying to set up like a Vichy France type situation. But much of United States was just wildland. Nazis flew at will, shooting anything that moved, which is, spoiler warning, how McCoy died in that timeline. The other two books were equally as fascinating. You understand why Kirk, right before he died, goes, "Oh my." Again, somebody take those two words, it makes a fascinating story. And then Spock's line was equally as interesting because at the time he was still alive. He ends up in the Killfall universe dying. The other one I mentioned, What If Hitler Won the War? Like I said, I remember reading bits and pieces of it, real short stories. Some were good, some were meh. And for life of me, I'd be willing to bet I don't have it anymore. It's just one of those books that I probably donated, sold, vanished, got eaten by mice. I don't know. Anything for you?
The one I remember in comics was when they brought back the Freedom Fighters, basically the quality characters, Uncle Sam, Phantom Girl, Dollman, Bomb, all those. They didn't bring them back as, all right, we're just going to have yet another superhero team. They brought them back on their own Earth, which was an Earth where Hitler had won. And they first put that together in the crossover, because every year they used to do a crossover where the Justice League and the Justice Society would cross over. And by the time you got into the 70s, they would always throw in another group. Like, okay, here's the Seven Soldiers of Victory. Here's the New Gods. Here's the people from
Marvel family.
Yeah, and they did one with the characters from Quality because DC had recently acquired them. And when they started that series, it was a 15-issue series where Hitler had won World War II. And I didn't buy it at the time because I wasn't buying DC. Because, I was a Marvel zombie until
DC wasn't cool.
81.
Oh, yeah.
Until I found out that's where Roy Thomas went. And I have since picked it up, and it's okay. I can see why it got canceled. There was also the very famous series What If by Marvel, which is going to get its own Disney Plus series, which is going to be weird. And then there's a book series, and there are a few of them, and they're all by Harry Turtledove. The first starts with How Few Remain, which picks out one specific point in the Civil War. Because there was a point where one of the messengers for the Confederacy lost these plans, and they wound up in the hands of the Union, which caused the Union to know how they were going to fight in this upcoming battle, so they were able to win, and that kind of snowballed the Union into winning. And in this book, those plans never got into the hands of the Union. So the South didn't win the Civil War so much as they were able to turn it into a stalemate, and after a while, they basically put together a peace agreement. And then the books continue with a number of series. Okay, what would have happened in this world with World War I? What would have happened in this world with World War II? And those are just fascinating books. If you're going to start reading them, prepare yourself to be reading them for months because they're very dense and very complex with a lot of characters and tons of historical research. Those are the ones that stuck out to me. But I always wondered why, like the Ultimate Universe dealt with, okay, what if the Marvel Universe started in 2001 instead of 1961? There was also a miniseries that failed on a massive scale that I wish somebody would actually do another version of. And it was Fantastic Four Big Town. And it was by Steve Englehart. And it was basically, okay, what if all this stuff in the Marvel Universe, because in the Marvel Universe, they've got time travel, they've got, intergalactic travel, they've got all these things. Well, how would that really affect society? Because in the Marvel Universe, most people like aliens, oh my God. Whereas if you read Marvel Comics, I mean, there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of aliens who have been on Earth. There have been multiple alien invasions. We can time travel. We can do all this stuff. So it posits a world where, okay, how does that change the Marvel Universe for not just the superheroes, but for the average person? And it's one of the things that kind of bugs me a little bit about Marvel right now. Doctor Strange is like, okay, I'm out of magic on Earth. Well, there's magic in other galaxies. I'll just head on over to those other galaxies. And Marvel's supposed to kind of be the world outside your window.
A new universe, perhaps.
Yeah, New Universe didn't ever come together as an idea. Because the way it was pitched, and this was one of those things where if you read everybody's stories involved, they're all very different. So to me, I'm going to boil it down in my head. This is my head canon, which is what I think happened. I think it was Jim Shooter said, okay, we're going to do another line of books where the characters are more realistic. And he actually said in the Bullpen Bulletin page, one of the things was when I read a DC book, when Superman picked up a building, it was just, a building. But in a Marvel book, when the thing picked up a building, you could see the wires and the hoses and the plumbing and all of this, which made it more realistic. And I want to go the next step on that. And there was kind of this zeitgeist in the air at the time, because remember, Watchmen was pitched as, well, what if superheroes were in the real world? And Shooter assigned it to Tom DeFalco. Tom DeFalco was already editing other stuff, and he wasn't getting any extra money for this, and the budget on it kept getting cut. And Shooter was pitching it as, this is my line of comics, but I'm going to have you do it. So kind of, well, why do I want to put in all this work on something that you're taking all the credit for with corporate? So he really kind of soft-pedaled it and didn't do anything. Shooter finally came in at the last minute. And if you look at those early issues, it's real clear that they went around the office in a panic going, oh, my God, we need ideas. Who's got something? Because DeFalco, well, he did a book about football players because he's a big football fan. Mark Grunwald, superhero teams. I like superhero teams. Shooter, what if I was a superhero?
What if you had to teach the most powerful being in the universe how to use the crapper?
Well, if you read Starbrand, it's unbelievably clear that it's Jim Shooter writing about what would I do if I were a superhero, because everything about the character is his life.
And it's really, I found it dull until Byrne took over. And then of course.
And then Byrne was like, I'm going to fuck this up bad.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And they did the pit, which was, to this day, I was still.
Jim Shooter fucked everything up.
If I can find those Byrne issues in a, what was it, Philadelphia that got vaporized?
Shooter's hometown.
Oh, was that?
Yeah.
They're just fun reading.
Starbrand said, oh, I'm going to take my power and put it into this dumbbell, because Shooter was a weightlifter at the time. And it caused Philadelphia to explode, which was Shooter's hometown. And he used lines that Shooter had said publicly about the line out of the mouth of the original Starbrand. It was 9 issues of character assassination.
See, now I got to reread them.
Yeah.
Knowing all that. As a kid, I just enjoyed it because I thought it was interesting, especially when the pit blew up everything and just everybody's reaction to it. But it didn't live up to its expectations. And the last I recall, that whole Earth wasn't the Living Tribunal. Didn't he isolate it somewhere in the Marvel Universe during a Quasar run? I mean,
Yeah.
the Star Brand got out because
During the Star Blast series.
oh yeah,
That was what Star Blast was. It was the new universe was bleeding into the Marvel universe. So it kind of got shoved in a little, kind of a ball.
Yeah.
But one thing that came out of it when Hickman took over the Avengers was, well, every universe has a Star Brand.
Yeah. Which is something I know. Wait a minute, wasn't this locked away by the Living Tribunal? Didn't matter. He'd be dead by the end of the run, anyways.
Well, and it didn't matter anyway because that's that universe's Star Brand. This is our universe's Star Brand.
Lest we leave the question out, what the hell was the books Joe talking about? I did find them on Memory Alpha. It's a Star Trek Crucible. It's 3 issues, McCoy, Spock, and Kirk. By David R. George III, a guy who, if I see his name on a Star Trek book, I will pick it up. The only other guy who I'm more rabid about Star Trek would be if Peter David wrote another one. So yeah, again, these books, they did cancel the omnibus. I had all 3 of them, but you go to Half Price Books. I noticed the Star Trek books have been drying up. Either they're not buying them or they just the rush of everybody getting rid of them has started to disappear. But and I don't even know if I have mine anymore. They're just all 3 of them are fun to read, so you do find them.
I think one of the things is they pay less and less and less for them. So if you go out onto Amazon, because Amazon sells used books now that eBay destroyed half.com, which was where I would buy tons of used books.
Oh yeah.
But Amazon, I could set up an Amazon store where I sell my used books. So, like, a Star Trek book that's just come out, they may have some people who are selling it at a little bit under cover price. But the stuff that's, 2 years old or older, there are people like, 50 cents. Just get it out of my house.
Yeah. I'm just looking on the eBays now, and $7.70 free shipping. So again, if they're out of print, let me do a quick adjustment for lowest price first and see what I come up with. And of course, there is a book called Quellers in the Crucible, which is one of the paperbacks back when they numbered them. $4.89. So yeah, I mean they're not dirt cheap like they were, but
better than getting 5 cents for them in a half-price book. What other comics have you been looking through?
I'll talk a little bit more about that in Freaking and Geeking. I've been doing a lot of eBay, and I know you're shocked, right? And I've got a lot. I've got about 2 long boxes of stuff that I just never read. And sometimes I look at it and I'm like, I'm never going to read this. Either the art or it just doesn't sing to me. Or it's amazingly expensive. And I was like, well, I'm going to get this sucker on the eBays right away. And I'm going to
right while the iron is hot.
Well, that, and then I can always turn around and get the paperback or the trade. Or, for example, Cory, do you remember? I'll talk about the one I was going to talk about geeking. Do you remember the Green Lantern War?
I know the Sinestro Corps War.
The Green Lantern War was the very end before the DC New 52.
Oh, okay, yes, I do remember that.
And yeah, because Corona, is that his name?
Yeah.
Boy, he chose poorly. He somehow, again, I don't remember or didn't read the run before that. And I probably got rid of the entire run in the Great Purge because DC is slowly reprinting the entire Jeff Johns run of Green Lantern. And I got to tell you, much like I'm going to rave about it, because much as I rave about Jason Aaron's run on Thor, he did a great job, because I think he ties in the Blackest Night, he ties in the Brightest Day. He makes the Green Lantern not just a bunch of idiotic space cops, but I mean, he brings them alive in such a way that actually makes me excited to read it. And again, Morrison's doing the same thing with his interrupted run right now. But at the very end, the Green Lanterns basically go to war with each other. A lot of it's over just the Guardians are assholes. And it ties into New 52 because it also explains how Sinestro shows up as he's now the Green Lantern, wearing a Green Lantern ring. He doesn't want it, but he's got it. And some of this I didn't understand because I didn't know what was going on. It also explains how Hal got stripped of the ring, why he got stripped with the ring. It was a fun run, and it goes through 3 different series. It goes through Green Lantern Emerald Warriors, and Green Lantern Corps at the time. And then there's there may be other tie-in issues. There is a 2-part Green Lantern War Aftermath, and then it goes into the New 52. Again, with the New 52, it was kind of like everybody was reset, except there were certain runs that weren't. I believe Batman, because wasn't Morrison still writing it at the time?
Batman didn't get reset because of Morrison's run.
It got renumbered.
No,
there was a Batman #1.
There was a Batman #1, but his stuff went into what was it? Batman Incorporated.
Oh, okay. So because Snyder did Batman 1. Because that's the one I sold for silly money when I found out I had bought one at Midtown Comics and he had autographed it. And all of a sudden, because Gruber, I remember talking with Gru, he was like, "I get rid of this." And I called him back and I said, "Pat, go look on eBay to see what that New 52 Batman 1 is going for." Insane money. I don't know if it still is, but it was. I mean, I sold mine, I think around $150 just because it was autographed. Just crazy stuff. So again, I hadn't read this. I didn't want to get rid of it until I read it because it did cross over into different books. It's on my eBays now. So if it's a run you're missing or you want to check it out, that's kind of what I tend to do. If I really enjoy it, I'll keep it. If it's kind of like I read it, then I can, I'll just eBay it. I know a lot of times we wait for the graphic novel, but I'm more happy just to buy the comic because if I really, really like it, if I know this is something I'm going to reread over and over, I sell the originals and buy the graphic novel. Or just wait and get it at the library for cheap. Or when Cory's not looking, I'll distract him with a couple of fresh-baked pies and then walk away with an omnibus or 2.
Damn it.
Not the load-bearing ones. I know it because you noticed the last time, when the house started leaning and like, "Joe, put that back." Sorry.
Let's see. The sales report for 2019 came out, Joe, for comics.
Oh, this
ought to be fun to go through this.
This ought to be real interesting.
These are the total overall numbers. So, Joe, knowing that there are people out there who say that comics are dying, if you total up all comic sales, North American comic sales for 2019, how much do you think it would be?
I can tell you, but I don't think you'll like it.
Okay.
42.
No.
Okay, that's all I got.
No, just take a wild guess.
I would say around the 2 million mark.
$1.21 billion.
Oh, dollars. I'm thinking units sold.
Oh, no, $1.21 billion.
Yeah, but how's that relate to porn? Never mind, don't answer that.
Porn doesn't make money anymore.
Oh, it's not. Yeah, free.
Yeah. Graphic novels were $765 million. Comic books, $355 million, and digital comics only $90 million. Now, this does not include Marvel Unlimited and DC Universe, which, if you like DC Universe, get all of it that you can now because they're no longer selling yearly memberships. They're going month to month, which is never a good sign.
I'm out.
Now, sales.
However, the American porn industry is anywhere from 6 to 15 billion on the low end and as high as 97 billion. So it's still trekking in there.
Who is spending money on porn?
I don't know, but they said it could be worth more to the U.S. economy than Netflix. So,
through book channels, that's bookstores and Amazon, $570 million. Through comic stores, $525 million. Digital downloads are $90 million, and through other channels is $25 million. So graphic novels, far and away, more than twice as much as regular, monthly comics or, the regular comic books. This counts manga, this counts young adult, this counts collected edition, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you've got to think that, when you look at something like Dogman, which sold 5 million copies in its first printing, there's a new one coming out in September. I imagine it will break that record because the guy who created it, I didn't realize he was the creator of Captain Underpants as well, which was a book that my son devoured every time a new one came out. Absolutely loved those books. Digital is kind of a single-digit growth, but graphic novels, this is last year, 11% increase. And everything I've read is that when the quarantine and the lockdown hit in March, graphic novel sales jumped again through bookstores and Amazon. As people, of course, hey, I'm going to be home. Why don't I buy this stuff? As we told them to do. Sales of kids' graphic novels, once again, were driving the format. Digital sales back to 2018 levels. Sales of periodical comics were up mid-single digits. So sales of just regular comics are up, less than 10%, but more than 5%. The pair also commented on the challenging environment for comics and graphic novel sales in the COVID era. Demand for comics content remains high, and retailers have been finding inventive ways to fill that demand. While the pandemic may prove its biggest test yet, 2019 provided the business with a strong base. So one of the things that we've been saying for over a decade now, because we've been doing this over a decade, is that outside comic shops is where the money is. And, the numbers last year, $570 million in book channels, $525 million in comic stores. So if you're looking at a book like Squirrel Girl and going, why are they publishing Squirrel Girl? Nobody buys that. Maybe they're buying it outside of comic shops. Or Ms. Marvel. Or, Marvel Rising, or DC's young adult stuff. But the fact that comic sales are shooting up, and they're shooting up huge because in 2012 it was only 805 million. So just think, in 8 years, it's gone up over $400 million. And that's why when you see all the people in comics going, oh, comic sales are falling apart. And the publishers are like, what are you talking about? What are you doing over there? Are you watering the lawn?
No, I'm just reading a synopsis of The Crucible.
Oh. So that was one of the things that I wanted to point out. There's a lot going on with our sponsors, and here they are. That's probably the worst
segment ever. Try again.
Okay. So while sales are going up, that doesn't mean that everybody. No, that doesn't work.
That doesn't work either.
Yeah, screw it. Here's the ads. Believe it or not, kids, this here podcast has sponsors. And that sponsor, since day one, is DreamHost.com. DreamHost.com is the best, bar none, web host in the whole known universe. And if you need a website, head on over to DreamHost.com, put in code KRAYZ, that's KRAYZ, and get $20 off your first year. Now, if you would like to advertise here on any of the Solitary Rose Network podcasts, you can. Just email me at solitaryrosenetwork@gmail.com, subject advertising. Also, head on over to eBay and look for user KRAYZ, K-R-A-Y-Z. That's Joe Crazy Writer, who's always telling us about the eBay in every episode of Crazy Comics and Stories. If you would like to contact us, you can do so. You can give us a call at 952-856-0519. Leave a message and we'll play it on the show. Or you can send us an email at solitairerosenetwork@gmail.com. Thanks. And now that we're talking about sales, Joe, you've already given us a hint, but what's going on the eBays?
Lots of stuff. There was a brief moment where things kind of slowed down because of, my guess is because comic shops were open. They were getting new product for most places. And, but, people are still picking things up. It's amazing. I'm not on the big end of comics. I mean, I don't have all my huge issues. I still got a few pretty decent runs that I haven't done anything with. I got a run of Defenders. I've got a run of the Silver Age Phantom Stranger. I look at some of the prices on some of the early books, and I'm like, I do that occasionally. I mean, Cory's always like, Joe, stop dragging your lip across the bottom. When I see what people are asking for comics that I had that I've sold. And for the most part, the ones I sell, as I mentioned, I have in the graphic novels. I talked about, we did our geeking down in Rochester. Which I don't think we've talked about. We didn't run the show yet. I went to Captain Jack's. I went through and found my duplicates. I read some stuff. I put them back. Those are on the eBays. So you can never really tell what's going to show up. That was something, too. I know one of the mainstays in early comics shops, they would always say, send me your list of what you're looking for. And I would do it, but then, I had, what did I have? 30, 40, maybe up to 50 boxes of back issues. But when people would ask for things, it'd be like, I don't know why I bother even asking, because what they're looking for are things I just don't have. And we got in runs of hot comics, to borrow a pun, almost consistently.
Can I bring up a reason why I quit doing that?
Oh, I know why I quit. I just wasn't worth my time. But what would you say?
When I would give a comic shop my want list, in the beginning it was, they would, pull it. But then very soon it became, oh, he wants this, and they jacked the price on it, thinking that, oh, it must be a hot book. And I would, go to a local shop and go, because they'd say, give us your want list, and if we find them, blah, blah, blah. So they would get it in, and it would be priced almost double what it was being sold for in some of the catalogs you'd get. Because I would mail, for back issues, you had Mile High, had their huge ad in Marvel Comics at the time, and I was buying back issues from Camelot and Robert Bell and a few other people. And when the comic shop would get it, it's like, well, you're charging almost double what Mile High is, and Mile High is a known gouger. And it very quickly became, especially the 80s, where comic shops were very predatory back then.
Oh, yeah.
We've talked about that incessantly. They would look at my list and go, oh, that must be a hot book. Got to jack the price.
Yeah.
So I just quit doing it and never really got back to it.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have people call occasionally, do you have this in stock? Yes, no, yes, no. But really, it just, for the returns, it's just not worth it. What's cool now, of course, you youngsters now with the eBays and your Amazons and, Mile High's got their, you can Google something and find it. Like I said, I'm a known bottom feeder. I call it thrifty. But yeah, if I got something.
It's funny how when you were a shop owner, damn bottom feeders. Now you become one.
Well, the bottom feeders were guys I'd only see in my shop when I had a sale. And when I had a sale, it was an event. Nick would always tell me, nope, don't do that. What you're doing is you're ruining the market. I said, well, maybe, but I've got 30, 40, 50 boxes of back issues that ain't selling.
Nick never did have sales, really. He would do some light sales, but for the most part, he didn't believe in sales.
Yeah, and I guess I was more, get this shit on a pallet, get it out of here. Speaking of stuff on a pallet, because my stuff isn't shit, whereas your shit is stuff. Anyways, just take a quick peek at some of the things that sold. Like I mentioned, I had a set of the Monty Python and the Holy Grail figures. I believe these were done by who did the manufacturing on these? Sideshow Collectibles. And the second one sold, King Alpha, mint in the package. The packages are in pretty good shape. Still got some of the other ones left. Doc Savage, the Spider's Web, is a black and white variant out of Dynamite. Still got low copies of Action Figure News and Toy Review. I think I've talked about this in the past. These were the go-to magazines. I mean, people would come in the shop, that and the other publication, Tomarts, people would come in and just read through them and then put them back. I mean, these are like $5 magazines, and I think comics were around the $2 price range. So they weren't cheap, but people would come in and they had two columns, like here are the toys to look out for, here are the toys that are out that are worth investing in. I wish I had the time. It'd be fun to go and look and see. Yeah, they said this would be worth money. Isn't. Or the other cases they said would be worth money. Oh my gosh, look at how much it's going for on the eBays. But again, I price my stuff to be the cheapest. It's the information's still good. The pictures are fun. It's kind of an interesting look back too to see what the toy market was like now. Now it's all online. You either look on the eBays or you got your little scan device. You can scan the UPC code and see what it's going for all over the interwebs. I do have a good run. Speaking of want lists, I do have a good run of Gru the Wanderer ready to rock. I've put a few key issues up already, including some autograph ones. Just sold number 3, which was the Pacific run from 1983. Sometimes in the don't throw it away until you check it department. Again, we were talking about mini comics earlier. You never know when a mini comic is going to hit big, or, especially if it's somebody's first work. I mean, I talked about the work from creator Sam Heady, and I sold his Ashcan comic for, I won't say what, just to protect the buyer. But, you can go back and look on eBay history. You'll find it. And I couldn't believe it was worth that, but it is. Adventure with the DC Superheroes #1, which is a milk giveaway with magazine size from 2001 that was given away. It was a free magazine with the purchase of 2 gallons of milk. They had some fun, like the Milk Mustache DC Superhero Sweepstakes, which I'd love to know if anybody won. And then, of course, they had hundreds of coupons for all sorts of other things. If you kept one, I sold mine for $15. So, or I'm sorry, $13.99. Speaking of, you never know, if you go to Antarctic Press, they got a series called Zombie Tramp. I've had the guy's paperback that he published from Super Real Graphics in 2010. My original price, $109.99. I did sell it. I also sold. I had to question if I wanted to sell this one. They did a San Diego Comic-Con 2019 exclusive of Macho Man Randy Savage in a Slim Jim container. Oh yeah, snap into it. And mine just sat on the shelf collecting dust. Meanwhile, the price jumped upwards of $150, especially for unopened ones. So I put mine on the eBays. And you know how much both the Zombie Tramp and the Macho Man Randy Savage Slim Jim figure sold for, Cory?
$1 million. No, I'd say about $30 for Randy Savage, and I don't know about the other one.
Oh, that's why you're terrible at this, because that's way low. However, I am not going to reveal what they were priced at, because the buyers in question made an offer. A lot of times I have up, especially for higher price things. I'm not quite sure what they should go for. I'll make an offer. One guy sent me an email. He was watching it, and he said, "Hey, would you be willing to take this for it?" And if you send me an email and you ask nicely, I made an offer, and he took it. And you can do that too with anything on my eBay store. And of course, you have an advantage, my dear listeners, because being a valued member of the Solitaire Rose family, is that what we're going to call them now? WWE family, Solitaire Rose family, or is that too
WWE Universe?
Oh, okay, the Solitaire Rose universe.
There you go.
Yeah, I like that. Just tell me you listen to this here podcast, and I will consider your offer. I mean, I don't come at me and go, I think it's only worth this. I'll offer you this. It's a $200 comic. You might get 2 words from me, listener or not. Or I might give you
95 cents.
I give you the Zen lesson and just never reply. But the point is, if you see something you like, and again, let me just call up that here Facebook page. It's Crazy, Krayz, or Crazy Comics and Stuff. If you're searching the eBay stores, I'm just going to put you get in there, and there's that little sort, go time newly listed, and you can see what it is I've listed in the order it dropped. And I'm not going to say what, because odds are what happened is the last time I used to say, oh, this is for sale, go check it out. By the time this podcast dropped, it's sold. So I didn't want to be a teaser. But let's just see. Last night, 3, 6, 9. I put up about 18 different things, including some rare stuff. Well, I mentioned the Barbie Twins set earlier. But yeah, and some of these we may talk about because they're series we probably have never talked about before. But I think we've talked a lot about comics. We've talked a lot about eBay. I think it's time I just say, come get some.
And now it's time for my favorite part of the show.
Oh, we're going to jump through the Guardians of Forever and go pick up some of them comic books we should have picked up years ago. I call dibs on Action 1.
No, not where I make marbles compete for first place in a race, which is my favorite YouTube series right now, by the way.
That's wacky.
No, it's Freaking and Geeking. Joe, what are you freaking on?
My no parking, I'm sorry, my handicap permit's gone. I mean, not gone, but it expired as of July 31st, so... You had your chance. I could have parked right up front of Target for you. We could have gone Christmas shopping. I know we used it a couple of times when we were traveling on the road trip. Just get to park right up front with the handicap. But my hips of such, I mean, I still feel it occasionally, and it's expired. So just parking back like all you normal mortals.
I tend to park pretty far back anyway because I need all the exercise I can get.
Yeah, I don't. And really, even at Mall of America, when I park on the edge, first of all, I get weirded when I park on the edge because I think, boy, if the brakes don't work, this will be an interesting drop. But they're usually no more than a supermarket parking lot or a strip mall. So it's not that big a deal. I like to go right to the top of the ramp because then when I leave, where did I park? I'm on the top. And the Tower of Pisa. The other things that freak me out are computer upgrades. I hate them because it's like right now I got an upgrade. Oh, you must have this upgrade. It obnoxiously told me I had to have the upgrade. Otherwise things would end bad. There would be another incident. So I get back in and now all my font colors have changed. All my, instead of having, black where I can see the icon, it's white where I can barely see the icon. The icon's changed. I really, really hate computer upgrades. It's like I understand I got to keep it swift. Yeah, we left this big hole in that allows them to watch you while you sleep. Silly mortals. But man, I wish they'd let you. Do you want us to change every single color on your font size? No. Do you want to see white lettering on black background? No. Do you, instead of using time Roman, whatever for your font, do you want to change it to like bold, iconic in 2 font size? No.
You want to watch time travel through your computer? Yes.
No, I got porn to download. But perhaps I've said too much. Other than top of the hour, freaking with my living with the COVID. Again, my wife's slowly recovering. It takes a lot out of you. The worst part was just the nonstop headache, which I hate having headaches. And I don't know anybody who does enjoy it. Well, there's a few masochists, but we don't talk about them. The same guys who read me. Cory, quick, what are you geeking on? Freaking out? Oh, I lost it.
Well, let's see. The office job is still insane. We're still way short-handed, and 3 people were on vacation this week. So there were periods when there was 1 person to take calls. 1. So really, by the time my office day would be done, and, you know, we have mandatory overtime, it would be like between 7 and 8 o'clock, and I would just move over to the couch and, okay, I just want to watch top 10 lists on YouTube. Okay, I'm just going to throw on this wrestling show that's just kind of watch along with it. So a lot of this week, I don't feel like I got much of anything done. Yesterday was almost just a pure recovery day where I slept in. I slept in till 9 in the morning, Joe. 9.
Slacker.
And watch a couple movies, and then once the shade had gone, once my deck was shaded, I went out there with a couple of hard ciders and some garage rock music to play, and just sat and read comic books, which was nice. But then again, it was also like I didn't get anything done today. So a lot of the stuff that I have to do around the house has all been crammed into today, including recording this here podcast. Comic-wise, Marvel still isn't completely up to speed. There are a number of series where they said, oh, this is going to be digital only. Oh, wait, no, we're going to put out a regular comic of it. So if I were a shop owner, I would just be so pissed at Marvel right now. I know that they're probably mostly pissed at DC, but at least DC's putting stuff out. Marvel, you still don't quite know when stuff's going on. One thing that I did notice is Empire is pretty much weekly at this point. So if you're a Marvel fan and you don't want to read Empire, there's next to nothing for you. It's almost like, we had all this stuff done. We want to get it out. Just get it out. Just get the story done. One of the new distributors, I think it's LCS, shut down their phone line on Friday, July 31st, Joe.
Oh, brilliant.
Because they were getting too many calls to deal with, and it's easier for them to handle it if you send it via email. As someone who works on a phone line,
cowards.
There are people who, if you don't get back to them immediately, will lose their minds.
I can attest to that because, you know, my wife has to deal with that with the city. And emails, phone calls, conferencing calls. Ugh.
We have 24 hours to return emails where I work. But if it's more than, there are some people who will send an email and then 10 minutes later will call back and wonder why their problem that they just emailed you hasn't been solved. So, boy, I hope they know what they're doing with that. I know Diamond has a phone line where you can call in and say, I was shorted this many copies, or, this
even leave a message if you don't have, the hardest part to get a hold of my Diamond rep was the day of.
Yeah.
And, I took to usually just emailing them and saying, hey, these are the things I'm short of. But then I knew on Thursday, if I needed to do a quick reorder, if I knew it Wednesday night, I would email him, because then the next day, he said that was usually the first thing I went with it. But yeah, it's timing's everything, and email usually is a better way to go. But you kids these days in your comic shops.
And the last thing I'm geeking on, I ordered off of the Amazons.
It means freaking, folks.
Yeah, the freaking. I ordered the Daredevil Miller Jansen omnibus. It was a decent price. I don't have that run as an omnibus, and it's one of the ones that Marvel said, yeah, we're closing it out, burning it out of the warehouse. So I ordered it, and it didn't come, and it didn't come, and it didn't come, and it didn't come. And I was watching the tracking, and the tracking was that it went to Brooklyn Park, Minnesota, and just stayed there. And stayed there and stayed there and stayed there. And I messaged the seller on Amazon. They did their research and said, okay, we're going to give you a refund. Would you like us to reship? Yes, please. 3 days later, sorry, we're all out. God damn it. So whoever it is at the post office at Brooklyn Park, really pissed at you right now. Of course, I've also been reading that for the U.S. mail is being slowed kind of on purpose.
On purpose.
By the new Postmaster General, because they really want to push people toward private mail, UPS and FedEx, which costs a lot more. And it really, that's one of the things where I'm not going to get political, but it pisses me off because the post office is so important. It's one of the few parts of the government that is actually in the Constitution, that we have a post office. And my parents live rural Illinois. They don't get stuff from FedEx. FedEx delivers it to Peoria, and then the U.S. mail takes it the rest of the way. Why? Because they'll lose money if they send somebody out to rural Illinois down a one-lane road for one package. UPS goes out there because a lot of people still order from UPS, but FedEx doesn't. And from what I hear, UPS is even starting to go, well, you know, for some people here, it's just not worth it for us to go down a gravel road because it's, you know, so many miles for one package. So they give it to the post office. And a lot of people don't realize that because we live in big cities or we live in suburbs where we get these deliveries all the time. It's like DoorDash. Until COVID, we didn't have DoorDash in Chaska because there aren't enough people who order food. Well, now there are enough people ordering food because of the quarantine that, okay, we're opening it up. But I think, what's their competition? Let me take a look. Whoever their competition is still doesn't deliver to in Chaska. Grubhub. Grubhub still doesn't deliver in Chaska because, well, it's just, you know, you've only got 35,000 people living there. It's not big enough for us to blah, blah, blah. So one of the things that I think we forget about rural people when we make a lot of assumptions like, well, everybody gets FedEx. No, not everybody gets FedEx. Everybody can order delivery. Not everybody can order delivery.
People don't get high-speed internet, you know. They forget, you know, these people are on dial-up or satellite or whatever. You know, we're in the middle of the city and we're like, yeah, we can listen to this podcast goodness nonstop 24/7. For our rural listeners, they don't even have comic shops out there.
What are you geeking on, Joe?
Right now, if you are on I-694 northbound around 10th Street in the left lane, you're screwed. It's one of those construction zones where they move it. You know, if you want to go through traffic, left lane, bypass traffic on the right lane. Well, there happens to be a car fire going on there, and the fire truck just showed up, is blocking the northbound lane to move. Oh, there's someone trying to make it. Oh yeah, it's all screwed up. One guy's trying to cross. He's got a 4-wheel drive trying to cross over. Just fascinating because while you were talking, I blipped on the camera and just was watching kind of what was going on. And a fire truck pulled up. The fire's out, but it's still steamy. And it's like watching Emergency. But this is the big one at the end, where the big fire, where, you know, the alarm goes on forever. And there's a TV reference for you kiddies. Speaking of TV, I talked about this ages ago, but I picked up the DVD for Star Blazers, the remake that they did, where the new animation, they put in more characters, they made the storyline a little more realistic. There wasn't just one woman on the Yamato. Am I saying it right? Yamato, yeah. They say it differently when you listen to it. Well, I'm into the second series, which is Star Blazer Spaceship Battle Yamato 2202, which is for us known as the fight against the Comet Empire, although they don't call it that in this one. They do say it's the, I can't even say Galantis, the White Comet Empire. Just a lot of fun. I watched 7 episodes last night. I think it's 26 half-hour episodes, and the dubbing's actually pretty good, so I can listen to it and enjoy just the rich animation and everything. I will probably have it finished by next week because I have a feeling I'll be up all night. At the beginning, I was telling Cory, I stayed up till like 4 in the morning watching this. I fully intended to get up and, again, stupid, selfish me, go to this outdoor toy thing. I figured it's outdoors, it's nice, I'd be wearing masks, I'd bring my gloves. But I slept till 10 o'clock. I didn't get out of bed until, well, on the couch because of my wife and I segregated the house. So she's got this half, I get this half. The kids are okay on the second floor because we never go up there, and that's kind of their safe spot. The communal areas we share, and then we got to wipe them down after you do it. So, yeah, we're taking care of this. Minor freaking. This is shit I was talking about way back in February, and no one took me seriously. I told them, when you get this shit, oh, no, we don't need to stock up on stuff. I said, I'm not saying hoard. I'm just saying, you got one roll, you got one thing of toilet paper, get 2. You got one thing of ibuprofen, get 2. You know, I did it with the meds when everything started going to hell in March. Oh, yeah, you know, we probably should do that. Well, Joe did it. Okay, and then we went out. We got enough food, especially because some of the kids are on special diets, and of course I'm diabetic. I can't just live on Snickers or $100,000 bars and Mountain Dew.
I'm White Castle.
Diet Mountain Dew. No, you got to go out for that, which I have. But
they'll deliver it.
I'll go through a drive-through. Again, I don't have symptoms. I don't know if I'm asymptomatic, you know, and then if my wife wants something, I go out and get it for her. But again, when this hit and everybody, oh my God, what are we going to do? I said, you weren't listening to Joe back in fucking February, were you? You know, again, it's the old Boy Scout in me. Cory, what does your son say about you?
My backup plans have backup plans.
You know, and even Gruber, I used to laugh at him because this is my polka fund. This is my backup polka fund. This is my backup polka fund. This is my emergency stash. I mean,
we always loved it when we were able to get one of his bags, though.
Yeah. And, you know, I'm the same way.
To the point where we were playing at the Source's warehouse. And every time a bag became empty, you would take it and pin it to the wall as a trophy.
That's great.
Oh, we were awful. We were awful human beings.
But, yeah, no, it's just, you know, I do the be prepared. You know, it's the old Boy Scout in me. So I'm always thinking ahead, you know, going to take a walk? Well, got my cell phone, got my wallet, got a bottle of water just in case. Always have the mask in the back pocket in case I do decide to jump in somewhere. So, yeah, it's a little frustrating because people are getting, you know, we're getting the tension of living together nonstop. I mean, even now I don't get to go to work, and you know, I don't mind. I'll sit down on eBay all day long or sit on the porch. It's been nice enough where I've actually brought up I've got 2 short boxes out of the long boxes. These are the books I want to read. Next up, Savior from Todd McFarlane. I don't know if you ever read that one.
No, I did. I don't even remember that one.
Yeah, 8 issues. It came out. It was kind of the big thing because it was the first non-Spawn thing he did. And it's kind of one of these things where this guy appears, he has superheroes, but is he God? Hence the name Savior. I'll let you know when I read it. 8 issues. I'm looking forward to it. Oh, by the way, it's already on my eBays. So if you go and buy it now before I read it, good for you. But anyways, I'm loving this Star Blazers 2202. I mean, I know they did the Bolin War. I haven't seen any indication they're going to adapt that. I've never seen the Bolin Wars, partially because when I had it originally, it was back when I had Hot Comics, and I was able to wholesale the videotapes of the complete set. So we're talking like $200 a set. I had all 3 tapes of the Gamelon War, the Comet Empire, and then the Bolin Wars. But with the Bolin Wars, what they did is they used different voice actors. And I started watching little clips of it lately on YouTube, and I'm like, it's off throwing. The Star Blazers, of course, they're not using the original voice actors, but you hear certain voice actors when you're used to it. It's like if all of a sudden Bugs Bunny changed his tunes, or they never did that. They never changed Barney Rubble at all. So you just kind of go, oh, wait a minute. The worst was, of course, when Jim Henson died and somebody else voiced Kermit the Frog, because you're like, it's not quite Jim Henson. And when Mel Blanc,
right.
And when Mel Blanc's passed on the Bugs Bunny, but you get over it. And like I said, the story is compelling, and I might just go watch it tonight. Let's see. Oh, Cory, the fire's out on 694. Traffic is still effed up in the left lane, but hey, that's why you download. Cory, what do you do when you travel?
Oh, now that my phone connects with my my radio, and I always keep, if I'm going on a road trip, I always keep snacks in the car. I always keep soda and drinks in the car, and my cell phone or tablet has tons of stuff if I get tired of listening to satellite radio.
Yeah, and see, that's another thing. You never know when something like this is going to happen. If you're in the left lane of that 694, you can't go anywhere. You can't cross. You can't. Both lanes are essentially shut down, and it's blocked off because of construction, so you can't detour around it. I did see somebody find a gap and four-wheel over it, and I'm sure the authorities might want to be talking with that guy later. So, and I don't believe there's a fatality in this. I don't even know what caused the fire, but God forbid you're on the road and there's a fatality in front of you. That is shut down by the State Patrol. Could be both directions. They don't care about.
They don't care if you're late.
No, they've got to deal with this while it's happening. Well, I hate to use the word fresh, but yeah, they got to figure out what the hell happened. And so always have something. I always have some snacks, although it was trail mix, and in this heat, it's probably just a snack now, probably melted together. Have some water, have some books to read, whatever. Just be prepared, folks. Download your favorite podcast, us, and have it ready. Bring some comics. But that's not what I was owing about. Cory, did you see? Remember the shop down in Rochester, Nerding Out?
Yes.
They're got a shop that's going to be opening up in Invergrove Heights.
I saw that. And it's going to be huge.
Huge. I really, these guys must be doing something, but they're also known because they do that Nerding Out con where they bring in pro wrestlers and whatever creators they can find, and they'll have gaming, they'll have toys. I love that shop we visited down in Rochester, and I'm really keen to see what they come up with. And I will be hopefully COVID free when this happens, and we'll go visit it on their opening day. That would be kind of fun to go in there. We'll bring a recorder. Maybe we get some reactions of people. So I'm excited for that. I'm excited that most of the comic shops I'm aware of in town haven't closed up. I know a few, like Nostalgia Zone hasn't opened. They haven't. They're a small store that's packed. I don't know how they could do the COVID thing. I know they're doing mail order. They do a great social online. They have a website. I'm sure you could maybe call and say, hey, could we come and just browse through the store on such and such a day? I can't, don't put me to word with that. But so yeah, it's fun, and it's killing me because I really want to go geeking. Speaking of which, I got here in my grubby little hands. Oops, hang on a second. I don't want to damage it. I always talk about how I love the Lady Death Coffin Comics Kickstarters because they have, I like the story's actually pretty good. Cory, let me, if I can find it here, I'm going to through the, you've seen Lady Death, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you see, we look at it and we're like, oh yeah, she's got huge tracts of land.
The funny thing is what was the company she was with? Was it CrossGen?
Oh, CrossGen, yeah, for a while.
Yeah, when she went to CrossGen, she had like a regular proportion body.
Yeah.
And
they revamped the origin.
CrossGen went under, and they went to Avatar. Once again, boobs bigger than her head. Bigger.
And but now they're doing it solo via Kickstarter. And if I can find, I made a scan of it. Thank God for editing. Oh, good Lord, was it that Fargo?
Fargo? You did it in Fargo?
I've done it all sorts of places. A lot of incidents.
You went to attack Bill in his house.
God, that was a great. All right, let me see. I gotta find it here because I want.
I miss Fucker
Oh man, the great podcast. That's how there's no time travel, because we would have pulled up and said, "Check your recorder." There goes us driving by. All right, let me see if I can find it here. I just want to get what I want to get is your reaction to it when you see it. Okay, I found the file. Let's see. Oh shit, that's not what I want. Eek. There we go.
That's not it.
That's not it. Okay. Cory, I'm sending this via Facebook messaging.
Okay.
This is what they can do now that they couldn't do before.
Oh, jeez.
Yes, it's as much as you thought. And there's even better before, because Lady Death didn't just happen to pop on this guy. Oh, she put the wholesale press on him. But so, yes, if you want, you can check it out. But they also, the reason I love it is you can go for even their most basic book, and you're privy to all the swag. Buttons and cards and stickers and extra comics and things. And occasionally they do giveaways where they have like certain rare editions of only certain copies. I got one. It's the Hell Witch, the Forsaken #1 Black Metal Edition, limited to 13 serial numbered copies and 5 artist proofs. Oh, was I surprised as all heck, because I got this thing and I'm like, what? I mean, it's solid, it's hard, it's got a metal certificate of authenticity. And what's the first thing you think I did with it, Cory?
Sold it.
Nope. But you're not wrong. I did go to the eBays to see how much it's running for. Take a guess. And anything under $400 is wrong.
$600.
That's what he was asking. There's been 2 copies I'm aware of. Number 11, which sold for a buy it now, which means I have no idea what he offered or what he took for it, and I'm too nice to ask. And then there's somebody there currently who had his at $6.99, just dropped it to $5.99 with a buy it now. Now, you know me, I'm an underdog. I'm not underdog. What's the word we used? Bottom feeder? If I was going to put mine on, it would be the cheapest one ever on eBay. But this thing is damn cool. I don't know if I want to get rid of it. I'm thinking I may just hang on to it. Just gotta get a fingerprint off it. But you know me, eventually I'll just be like, hey, you know what? I think I will sell it. So I was pleased to get this. This is just a random giveaway. First time I've ever gotten one, and they do it constantly. There's somebody on there now that has what they have I think it's a mystery envelope, which could have a done-in-one comic. It could have a piece of original art. It could have, you don't know what it has. And I'm looking at it like, I'm intrigued. And he's asking $200 for it, but the comic in it could be worth more. I don't know if I ever told the story. Nick had an event going on for Chaos Comics where they had a special, only one made comic that they gave away in the shop. And the one guy got it, and right away everybody was on top. I'll give you 2. No, I'll give you 4. I'll give you 5, 6, up to like $1,200. People were offering this guy for this single comic because there's only one made. He didn't take it, by the way, and I to this day I have no idea who has it. Although I'd love to interview you if you got it and talk to you on this here podcast. So yeah, they're coming up with a new Lady Death one. I believe it launches. It'll probably be launched by the time this podcast drops. So if you're so inclined, check it out. If nothing else, for the swag, you know, it's a lot of fun. Speaking of Kickstarters, I did pull down. I haven't finished it, but I'm well on my way through the first volume of Jim Starlin's Dreadstar. This was the series that he had done initially in Epic Illustrated, Metamorphosis Odyssey, and then eventually it appeared in The Price, a graphic novel from Eclipse. There was one more kind of in I think Epic Illustrated 15, kind of a synopsis as it went into its regular series in the Epic comic line, that starting in 1982. And Jim Starlin, or is it George Starlin? Whatever, you know who I'm talking about. He owns his character, lock, stock, and barrel. So it's his baby. He talks about briefly why he went from Eclipse to First Comics. The check stopped coming. And I think Archie Goodwin told him, yeah, you probably not a bad idea to check out elsewhere. First did it, and then he came back at Malibu Comics. He did a 6-issue miniseries, which I don't believe is in this series. My great stupidity, and again, this was before I realized this guy could write the phone book and it'd be entertaining. I stopped collecting at issue 41 because that's when Peter David took it over. And I have since got him right next to me, in fact. So eventually, when I finish reading the 3-volume set I got through his Kickstarter, I will go into it. And this is, I seriously, go back in time, Cory kicked me in the ass when I was saying, oh, you should not be reading. I don't like omnibuses because this is so much fun. The only real bummer is like when the artwork gets caught into the crevice and you kind of unnaturally spread the book in order to read it. But this looks so much better, and it looked great in Epic Illustrated, but this looks so much better now in full color, in all together at once, just reading the whole thing in order the way it goes. And even when you get into the, I think I'm all the way through issue 1, and that's the first half of the omnibus, and I still got 2 more to read. So one way or another, if you've never read Dreadstar, I think you can go to Jim Starlin's Facebook page. I believe they have copies of this for sale, so you could still jump on board. And I think they just did did they just do one for an original story coming up? I think they just finished it. He hasn't done the Peter David stuff. He does indicate that they might try to do it later, which would be cool to have everything. Another book, because you know I'm a completist. We were talking, was it last podcast or 2 podcasts ago when we were on our trip to Rochester, about Fred Hembeck. Well, I found my copy, The Marvel Universe According to Hembeck, which has most of his stuff, including the Fantastic Four roast, which was hilarious. The Peter Parker Spectacular Spider-Man 86, which was done during Assistant Editors Month, where the assistant editor decided I want Fred Hembeck doing the art instead of L. Milgram. And L's not very happy about it. But yeah, these are just fun issues, and I'm slowly plowing through that, in addition to all the other things that I'm reading. As our patron Stan Lee says, enough said. But Cory, what are you geeking on?
You know how I said that I zone out and watch these top 10 videos on YouTube?
Oh, yeah.
One of them was top 10 video games that aren't what they seem. And one of them was a free game that's available on Steam. So if you have Steam, you can probably download it from their website too. It's called Doki Doki Literature Club. And when you start playing it, it seems like a kind of a typical Japanese dating sim, where you join a literature club and there are 4 girls in it, and through your conversation with them, you decide which one you want to date, etc., etc. But it's not. If you are, and there's a warning at the beginning of the game that if you get disturbed by violent or disturbing scenes, don't play the game. This is a game. If you're subject to trigger warning, don't play the game.
Subject to what?
Trigger warning. If there's stuff.
Oh.
If you get disturbed by if you get disturbed easily by stories and literature and stuff.
Oh, I was going to say Hank Pym striking Wasp.
Well, deeper than that.
Yeah, I didn't want to go any deeper.
But it is a fantastic game that plays with the fourth wall, plays with what a video game can be. Took me about a day to play it, and I was blown away by how creative and how great it is. And if you could take serious subjects and some really scary shit, I can't recommend the game enough. It's a lot of fun, which is hard to say because it deals with disturbing things, but because of how it plays with the reality of the game and your computer, you're going to come out of it just blown away by how inventive and creative it is. Comic-wise, I've actually been on...
Drop that name again. What was the name of the game?
Doki Doki Literature Club.
Thank you.
The wrestling promotion Evolve has shut its doors. They said that they were closing up very quietly. WWE bought up all their tapes, but the week before they did, on PWInsider.com, they said, "Hey, they're having a sale." So I went there, and what it was basically a 75% off sale to get rid of their Blu-rays and DVDs. And I went over. I've only seen one Evolve show, and that's the one that's on the WWE Network. But it's one of those indies where a lot of the stars, a lot of the people who are on the rise now, where they got their start. Young Bucks, Kevin Steen, Adam Cole, people like that. So I went in and purchased a whole bunch of DVDs and Blu-rays because, hey, it's cheap.
That's the way you do it.
And they showed up, and I threw in the Kevin Steen one. And it's basically, okay, here are the Kevin Steen matches he did while he was in Evolve. And I knew Kevin Steen, well, he's Kevin Owens now. But I knew him from Ring of Honor, and he was really good in Ring of Honor. And a lot of these, there's not a lot of story. It's just great matches. So if you're one of those wrestling fans who likes the matches and doesn't need a whole lot of a story other than this guy's got the title, this guy wants it, they're great. The DVD was great. I love getting that sort of stuff. And I'm really hoping that WWE just very quietly puts them all up on the WWE Network. Because I know when they've bought other companies, they eventually get it all up there. But all of this stuff's already digitized. So they don't have to do anything like that. People
get weird with monopolies, but WWE's doing a really fine job of preserving wrestling history, what they can get a hold of it. So I as long as they make it available one way or another, I'm fine with them. I wish they'd get a hold of everybody. If TNA goes out, which they are, get the tapes.
No, TNA's actually, they're basically Anthem bought Access TV, which was Mark Cuban's old network, and it's doing well enough on there that they're going to add a second show.
Oh, good. I'm just saying if a federation goes out, the thought of WWE having it, regardless of anything else going on in the company, their video, whoever's running the video thing is doing this justice, and I could see them becoming kind of like the archive if obviously a private company for money, but they're doing a great job of it. So yeah, I'm good one way or another. I enjoy WWE, what they're doing with it. And it's heartening to hear about TNA because there's stuff there I never got to watch that I would love to. Heck, I keep running across.
TNA was my favorite company, and then it all fell apart when Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff.
Yeah. I will, as I find them, I've been finding our old wrestling tapes that we used to have.
Oh, cool.
And I know we recorded over and over and over, but if there's anything on them, and there should be, I'll send them to you. Maybe you can dig through them and see what's fun. Because you'd record, what was it? Raw, Thunder.
Nope, Raw, Nitro, and ECW. And
then I would get, I would get one of them because you could, Raw and Nitro were at the same time. And, but one way or another, we would have probably more wrestling to watch than we had hours that the shop was open. The good days. Anyways.
I have really been digging in. I got the House of Mystery, the Bronze Age Volume 2 Omnibus in my last box. So, been reading through that, and I've also been reading a lot of the other DC mystery stuff because I really never was when I was a kid, I didn't like horror comics at all. And I didn't buy DC. So, these are all new to me. And a lot of the stories are just pretty mediocre. I'll be honest. The stories are very mediocre. They're not that great. But the art, you've got Alex Nino art. You've got all these wonderful. You got Bernie Wrightson doing stuff. You've got here's a Neil Adams story out of nowhere. Here's I'm just flipping through to get some names here. So, E.R. Cruz doing a story. Tony DeZungia doing a story. Let's see, here's Sergio would do pages here and there. Ruben Yandu. All of these Filipino artists, because they were paying them next to nothing. But, oh, man, this art is just beautiful. And while I liked it in the omnibus, I also have the showcases they put out, which sold much better than they thought they would, which I always find is funny. Because remember when they were doing the Marvel Essentials? It was like, oh, well, we don't have printing time for all of them, so we're going to cancel the Tomb of Dracula, Volume 1. And then the orders came in, and Tomb of Dracula, Volume 1, outsold the other two 2-1. And with DC, the horror showcases actually were outselling the superhero showcases, which is why they really churned those out fast till they killed the showcase line. But it's because a lot of this stuff, the art is just utterly beautiful. So good to look at, so nice. And absolutely adored it. Absolutely adoring these books. And then the last thing is that I have this service that I paid for called Curiosity Stream. And it was one of those when the pandemic started, they were like, $12 for a year. And normally it's, like double that or something. And what it is, it's all of these documentaries from the BBC and Open Universe and Australia and New Zealand and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I think I posted it on the Facebooks last night that, hey, it's 11 o'clock on a Saturday night, and I am watching The Story of Math, an hour-long documentary on how math evolved from the Mesopotamians to the Egyptians, to here, and just so much nerdy stuff. It's all science documentaries and history documentaries, and especially when the science channels and history channels on cable are now, all bullshit. It's like Hitler worked with aliens. And Discovery is all, reality shows. So it's nice to have, just good old-fashioned science documentaries, and I got sucked in last night and really enjoyed it. The last thing I want to point out, I finally saw Zombieland Double Tap. I'm a big fan of the first movie. I was worried about the second one because it seemed very much like a one-note joke. It was a good joke, but a one-note joke. But Zombieland Double Tap actually does a really good job continuing the story and finding new ways to make it fun. So it's available on your cable system and will probably be available everywhere soon. So that's what I've been geeking on. Believe it or not, kids, you've listened to us blather on about funny books for an hour and a half.
And we don't think we don't appreciate it.
And as we say every week, the comic we like the least, we still like better than the comic that you like the most. Joe?
You know, the whole thing with this COVID stuff, never in my life would I imagine my hands would consume more alcohol than my mouth. Oh, a plus side, my car's getting 3 weeks to the gallon.
Just same here. I didn't even start my car all week.
Hit my music.
We done, bitches.